The magic chirp-esque chorus is still echoing in Sapu's ears. When he finds himself alone in Sifu's office, the room is quiet. The only sound, the gentle hum of magical energy that always seems to permeate Sifu's space. This time, a gaping crack fissures the earth, tendrils of darkness reaching upwards. The shadow creatures seem unstoppable, their ranks never diminishing. And as they fight, more cracks appear in the barriers. More creatures pour through, making the situation dire. Seeing his friends struggling, Sapu makes up his mind. He steps forward, letting out a loud yell, drawing the creature's attention to himself. He stands in the center of the courtyard, bathed in the eerie glow of the creature's malice, their eyes fixated on him. Sifu and others use this moment to regroup, catching their breath and formulating a plan. Sapu, what are you doing? Sifu shouts, his voice laced with urgency. Get to safety. This isn't your fight. But Sapu doesn't respond. Instead, he closes his eyes, reaching deep within himself, trying to understand the connection he feels to these creatures. When he was younger, Sifu had told him that he was special, that he had a gift, but Sapu had always dismissed it as just another one of Sifu's cryptic pronouncements. Now, as he stands surrounded by the darkness, he realizes that he may have been wrong. There is something different about him, something these creatures recognize, something he can use to stop them. Opening his eyes, Sapu raises his hands, palms out, and focuses on the creatures. Leave, he commands, his voice echoing strangely within him. Leave now, and I won't hurt you. The creatures pause, their eyes flickering with surprise. For a moment, it seems as if Sapu's words have reached them. Then, as if overcome by some unseen force, they turn and flee, disappearing into the shadows from which they came. The silence that follows is deafening. The instructors lower their guard, astonishment etched on their faces. They turn to Sapu, their expressions a mix of shock and admiration. Sifu steps forward, his gaze intense. How did you do it? He asks, his voice hushed. Sapu shrugs, feeling a sense of wonder and confusion. He doesn't understand what has happened, why the creatures obeyed him, why he felt such power surge within him. I don't know, he whispers, his voice trembling. I just told them to leave. The instructors exchange glances, their expressions grave. They know that the battle is far from over. The creatures will return, stronger and more determined. And they must prepare. But for now, they take a moment to regroup, tending to the wounded and assessing the damage. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the courtyard, they know that the darkness is only gathering strength, and they must be ready when the night truly falls. From the depths of the crack, shadowy figures begin to emerge, their forms distorted and grotesque. The sight is both terrifying and mesmerizing. Fear grips Sapu. What are those? He asks, his voice barely a whisper. Beside him, Aljalu steps forward, her face grim. I believe, she says, consulting the grimoire she carries, that these are the harbingers of the shadow blight, creatures of pure darkness. Their presence heralds only destruction and despair. And according to the ancient texts, she adds with a shudder, they are here to seek out powerful wizards, to drain their magic and corrupt their souls. Sifu steps in front of them, his expression resolute. We won't let them pass, he says, his voice ringing with authority. The other instructors nod, forming a protective circle around the students who have gathered in the courtyard. Immediately, the instructors unleash torrents of magical energy, forcing the shadow creatures back. Bolts of lightning, waves of fire, and shields of pure magical energy fill the air, creating a dazzling display of raw power. Yet the shadow creatures seem unaffected by the attacks, their forms writhing and twisting, their eyes burning with an eerie light. They advanced relentlessly, their numbers seemingly endless. With every creature that falls, 2 more seem to take its place. Realizing that brute force alone cannot defeat these creatures, SIFU calls for a change in tactics. We need to disrupt their form, he shouts over the din of battle. Find their source and cut it off. Sapu watches as the instructors shift their strategies, focusing their spells to break the creature's shadowy forms. It's a risky move, leaving them vulnerable to the creature's attacks, but it seems to be the only option they have. As the battle rages, Sapu notices something strange. The creatures seem to be drawn to him, their eyes burning with an unholy light. Fear and confusion grip him. He doesn't understand why they single him out in the midst of the chaos. Suddenly, a creature lunges at him, its claws extended, its teeth bared in a silent snarl. Instinctively, Sapu raises his hands, gathering magic. A bolt of energy erupts from his fingertips, striking the creature. It shrieks, a sound that chills him to the bone, and recoils, its form flickering like a candle flame in the wind. The sight of the creature cowering before his magic fills Sapu with a mix of awe and terror. He realizes that he is the key to stopping the blight, but also that he could be the cause of its spread. In the ensuing moments, Sapu grapples with his destiny. Does he embrace his power and risk succumbing to the darkness, or try to stop the creatures without revealing himself? The fate of the academy, perhaps the world, hangs in the balance as Sapu struggles with his decision. But today, it feels different, heavier. Sifu sits at his desk, his back to Sapu, his shoulders slumped like a man carrying a heavy burden. Sapu paces, his mind racing. The image of the dark figure standing triumphant at the center of the academy, the very air around it twisting and warping, is burned into his mind. And then there's the prophecy, the one Abjulu had found, the one that spoke of a chosen one who would face the darkness. "It's not your fault," Sifu says, his voice unusually somber. Startled, Sapu stops his pacing and turns to face his mentor. He sees a rare vulnerability on Sifu's usually stoic features, and it takes him aback. "What isn't?" he asks cautiously. Sifu takes a deep breath and slowly swivels in his chair to face Sapu. His eyes, usually filled with warmth and wisdom, are clouded with worry. "This burden," he says, gesturing vaguely, "this is not your burden to bear, Sapu. You should not have to face this." "But why?" Sapu asks silently, confusion and hurt clouding his features. Sifu looks away, his gaze distant. He opens his mouth as if to speak, then closes it again. Silence stretches between them, thick and heavy, until finally, Sifu speaks again. His voice is low, serious. "Sapu, there is much you don't know, much that I can't reveal. Not yet. You were born under a shroud of secrecy, hidden away for your own protection. Because of that, there are things about you, about your past, that are better left unknown. For now." Sapu feels a surge of anger, Frustration boils within him, threatening to spill over. "Why are you doing this?" he demands, his voice tight. "Why can't I know the truth? Why am I always kept in the dark?" Sifus' eyes, filled with sadness, meets Sapus' gaze. "Because some truths are best left buried," he whispers, "and some burdens are too heavy for one so young to carry." Before Sapu can press further, a sudden jolt shakes the building. The windows rattle in their frames, and the walls seem to tremble. "What was that?" Sapu asks, fear edging into his voice. Sifio's face pales. "It's the barrier," he says urgently. "It's weakening. We have to go." Without waiting for Sapu, Sifu rushes out of the office, leaving Sapu with a mixture of fear and resentment. He follows quickly behind, wondering what new danger has arisen and why Sifu seems so afraid. As Sapu and Sifu rush to the courtyard where the other instructors are gathered, the ground trembles again. As the battle rages on, SIFU and the other instructors grow increasingly desperate.